Imagine coming home after the worst day of your life. You kiss your wife. You climb the stairs to check on your baby daughter, asleep in her crib. And in the 90 seconds your back is turned, a masked man slips into your kitchen and kills your wife. You never even see his face. But before he vanishes into the night, he presses the murder weapon into your hand. He raises a gloved finger like a gun and points it right at you. 90 seconds. That is all it took to lose everything. Then you wake up, and the police are not hunting the real killer. They are dragging you out the door in handcuffs for a murder you did not commit. That is where this movie begins. And trust me, how it ends is even crazier. Because this innocent man is about to be thrown into the deadliest game on earth. A race where every single driver is trying to kill him, and the only way out is to win. Stay with me, because there is a hidden twist about who he really becomes that most people watching never see coming. This is Death Race. First, let me give you a quick picture of the world he is trapped in, because it explains everything. It is the year 2012, and America has collapsed. The economy is in ruins, crime is out of control, and the prisons are so overcrowded that the government hands them all to private corporations, and once profit takes over, morality dies. One prison, called Terminal Island, starts streaming live inmate fights on the internet for millions of paying viewers. But the audience gets bored of blood alone. They want something faster, something deadlier. So the warden gives it to them, the death race. Hardened criminals in armored, weaponized muscle cars, blasting each other apart for one prize. Freedom. Win 5 races, and you walk free. There is just one catch. Almost nobody survives long enough to try. And to show us exactly how brutal this game is, the movie throws us straight into a race that is already ending. 2 cars are left. The first belongs to a masked legend called Frankenstein, with his sharp navigator, Case, beside him. The second belongs to his most feared rival, a monster of a driver known only as Machine Gun Joe. Both are at the finish line. Both would rather die than lose. But something is wrong with Frankenstein's car. His weapons will not fire. So he improvises. He ejects the heavy shield right off his car and slams it into Joe. Case, though, can already see how this ends, and she wants out. She ejects herself, just as Frankenstein screams across the line, winning the race, and exploding in a giant ball of fire. Now hold that fireball in your mind, because it is hiding a secret that flips this entire movie on its head. And we will come back to it. So who is our hero? Meet Jensen Ames, an ex-convict trying to leave his past behind and live an honest life, working at a steel mill. But that fragile little bit of peace is about to be ripped away. One day, Jensen shows up to find the mill is shutting down for good. And the company will not even pay the workers what they are owed. Tempers explode. The men start protesting. And that is when riot police storm in, swinging at anything that moves. Jensen watches his co-workers get beaten into the ground, and something in him snaps. He charges in, throwing armored cops around like they are nothing. And right there, we learn 2 things about this man. He is terrifying when he is pushed, and he only ever fights for people who cannot fight for themselves. Hold on to that. It is the whole heart of who he is. That night, he comes home to the one thing that matters, his wife and his baby girl upstairs. And this is where the movie reaches into your chest and squeezes, because while Jensen is upstairs holding his daughter, a masked intruder is already downstairs, standing over his wife. By the time Jensen races back down, it is too late. The killer ambushes him, knocks him out cold, and presses the murder weapon into his hand. The perfect frame-up. And just before he slips away, he lifts his gloved hand and makes that slow, deliberate shooting gesture. Lock that gesture into your memory, because it comes back, and when it does, it blows this whole story wide open. Jensen wakes up seconds later to the sound of police charging in, arresting him for murdering his own wife. And just like that, an innocent man and a brand new father is thrown to the wolves. 6 months later, guess where they send him? Terminal Island, the exact prison that runs the death race. And from the second he steps inside, the message could not be clearer. This place is built to break him. First, he meets Ulrich, a sadistic guard who blasts him with freezing water, lets another officer sucker punch him, then throws him in a cell with 3 inmates already licking their lips, ready to jump him. But you really do not want to corner this man. When Ulrich strolls back later, expecting a beatdown, he stops dead. All 3 inmates are laid out cold on the floor. Jensen took every one of them apart, alone. The next morning, 3 men watch him from across the chow hall. A grizzled mechanic named Coach, a hulking guy called Gunner, and a twitchy, sharp-eyed convict named Lists. And Lists knows exactly who Jensen is, because Jensen used to be a record-breaking racing driver before an accident ended his career. Remember that. It is the real reason he is sitting in this prison. But before we get there, trouble finds him. The whole hall goes silent as a brutal inmate named Pachenko rolls up with his crew, doing everything he can to set Jensen off, spitting in his food, calling him a woman killer, a child abuser. Jensen does not think twice. He launches across the table and beats Pachenko down before the guards can pull him off. And that outburst drags him in front of the one person who truly runs this nightmare, the warden herself, Claire Hennessy. Make no mistake, Hennessy is the real villain of this movie. And what makes her so chilling is not rage, it is how calm she is. She has read Jensen's file. She knows he is elite, and she has an offer that is going to change his life, whether he likes it or not. She wants him to become the new Frankenstein. And here is the secret that makes your jaw drop. The original Frankenstein is dead. He died on the operating table, after that fiery crash we watched at the very start. But not a soul in the world knows it, because Frankenstein always wears a mask, which means anyone can become him. And Frankenstein was not just a driver, he was a legend, a symbol, the fan favorite. And when he died, the ratings crashed through the floor. So Hennessy needs the legend to keep living, to bring the viewers and the money flooding back. Then comes the bait she knows he cannot resist. 5 wins buys your freedom, and Frankenstein already has 4. So all Jensen has to do is win 1 race, and he walks out free, straight back to his daughter. Sounds like the deal of a lifetime, does it not? And that is usually the first clue it is a trap. Of course Jensen hesitates, but Hennessy does not leave him a choice. Say no, and she will bury him in solitary confinement forever, just to keep her secret safe. Backed into a corner, he agrees. They take him down to the prison auto shop, and the second he walks in, something catches his eye. A huge section of the shop, sealed off and locked down, where Hennessy has been secretly building something for weeks. Nobody will say what. Keep that locked door in the back of your mind, because when it finally opens, people start dying. Then Coach pulls the cover off Jensen's ride, a vicious, modified Mustang, loaded with weapons and defensive tricks. But there is one rule. No live ammo until race day, so no prisoner can shoot their way out, and escape is a fantasy anyway. Terminal Island is exactly what the name says, an island. 1 narrow bridge off it, and the instant anyone even thinks about a breakout, it floods with cop cars and helicopters. Out in the yard, Coach explains how the game works. 3 stages. In the first 2, your job is to destroy as many rivals as you can. In the third, it is pure, flat-out speed to the finish. Every driver gets a female navigator riding shotgun. Every driver except Joe, who uses a male teammate instead, for a genuinely disturbing reason. He goes through navigators so fast, so violently, that even this bloodthirsty audience cannot stomach watching it. Then Lists points out the killers Jensen is about to share a track with. A full lineup of the worst men in the prison. There is 14K, a triad gangster who is also an MIT genius. Hector Grimm, a certified psychopath who worships Hennessy. Pachenko, the same man who just provoked him, who runs the Aryan Brotherhood inside. And Travis Colt, a fallen ex-NASCAR superstar. These are the men Jensen has to outlast to ever hold his little girl again. Right on cue, Joe himself pulls up to deliver a personal warning to Frankenstein. This race is between the 2 of them, and everyone else is just in the way. But then comes the tiny detail that changes everything. A van rolls in, dropping off inmates from work detail outside the walls, and Jensen spots something on their wrists. GPS tracking bracelets. And it hits him like a freight train. The man who murdered his wife was wearing one of those exact bracelets, which means his wife's killer did not come from the outside. He came from this prison, and Jensen has no idea yet just how deep this thing goes. Race day. It is showtime. They dress Jensen in Frankenstein's clothes, the mask, even his signature ring. And the moment the world sees Frankenstein alive again, the crowd loses its mind. Every lost viewer floods straight back. Coach gives him one rule: do not talk to the other drivers. Silence was part of the legend, but behind those mirrored windows, Jensen can pull the mask off, because Case already knows exactly who he is. Waiting on the line, he asks Case what put her in here. Her answer is quiet, but it lands. She killed a cop, her own husband, for the way he treated her. In an instant, she stops being just a passenger. And then the race detonates. Weapons switch on in the second lap, so the opening is all muscle. Cars slamming each other, fighting for every inch. But Case knows this course cold. She calls a shortcut. Jensen takes it, and he blasts up beside Joe into first. That is when Hennessy flips the switch. Weapons hot, shields live, and in a heartbeat, it is a war zone. Grimm smashes a smaller driver into a deadly obstacle and kills him on the spot. He sprays oil across Joe's windshield, but it backfires. 14K blows Grimm off the track with a missile. Joe runs him straight over. Then Jensen's own crisis hits. His machine gun jams. So Case does something insane. She climbs onto the hood, at full speed, to fix it by hand. And every rival instantly turns their guns on her. It is one of the most white-knuckle moments in the whole film. But Jensen's driving is so sharp that he weaves through every bullet, and Case drops safely back into her seat. And then it happens again. The exact curse that killed the original Frankenstein. His defenses die out of nowhere. His rear shield is hanging by a thread. But Jensen thinks fast. He has Case unhook the napalm, climb onto his lap, and he launches her entire seat out of the car like a human cannonball. It slams into Colt's car and drenches it. Case flings the lighter after it. And Colt goes up in a screaming wall of flame. One rival gone. Jensen closes back in on Joe. And then comes the gut punch. Pachenko pulls up beside him and makes that exact same shooting gesture. The same one from the night his wife was killed. Jensen freezes. Joe rams him. And he crosses the line dead last, while Pachenko takes first. 3 drivers dead, 6 left. And Jensen is only just realizing how rigged this whole game really is. Because straight after the race, Coach tears the car apart looking for the fault, and finds nothing. Every gadget works perfectly. So why did they die at the worst possible moment? Something here does not add up. And this is where the movie stops being a race, and becomes a war, between one man and the woman who owns him. Jensen storms into Hennessy's office, because he has finally pieced it together. Pachenko killed his wife. This whole thing, the murder, the frame-up, the prison, was one long setup to turn him into the next Frankenstein. Hennessy does not deny a word of it. She does not have to. She simply slides a photograph across the desk. His baby daughter, now in a foster home. And she reminds him, in that ice-cold voice, that if he ever wants to see her again, he will keep racing. It is cruel. It is calculated. And it works. Later, in the yard, Jensen notices Coach does not wear a prisoner number, and asks why. And Coach's answer is quietly devastating. He is not a prisoner anymore. He earned parole 3 years ago. He was free to walk out that gate whenever he wanted, but he could not do it. The world outside had changed too much, and the races had become the only home he knew. Then he tells Jensen something that matters. He does not believe for a second that Jensen killed his wife. That night, Jensen tails Pachenko back to his pit and nearly dies for it. Pachenko's crew grabs him. Pachenko grabs a heavy tool, ready to cave his skull in. But out of nowhere, Lists jams a pen straight into Pachenko's back. Jensen breaks loose, takes down the crew, and corners the man himself, beating the truth out of him piece by piece. Hennessy ordered the hit. Ulrich drove him to the house. Jensen is a heartbeat from ending him for good, when Ulrich bursts in and rips them apart, stealing his revenge right out of his hands. So when stage 2 rolls around, Jensen comes in with a plan. Pachenko flashes that same taunting gesture, but this time, Jensen does not bite. Instead, he does something bizarre. He slows down, deliberately, and drifts into a tunnel to get Case completely alone. Because the gadgets have now failed him twice, the exact same way they failed the original Frankenstein. That is no coincidence. So he tells her flat out, "Talk, or I throw you out of this car." And the truth spills out. Case sabotaged Frankenstein's weapons, because Hennessy dangled her freedom in front of her. But killing him was never the plan. He died refusing to give up, still fighting with no weapons left. Hennessy's real goal was colder. She just wanted him to lose, so her golden legend would stay trapped in here forever, racing for the crowd. And now Jensen understands. She is doing the exact same thing to him. Jensen slams his foot down and rockets back into the race, but he is not chasing Joe. He is hunting Pachenko. They trade bone-crunching hits. And then Jensen pulls a move nobody sees coming. He grabs the weapons manhole instead of the defensive one, which seems insane since his guns point forward. Then he spins the car around and drives backward, unloading straight into Pachenko's windshield. Once the car is a wreck, he whips back around, drops a smoke screen, and sends Pachenko crashing headfirst into a concrete wall. Then Jensen stops. He gets out. He walks up to the man who murdered his wife and orphaned his daughter and snaps his neck. Cold, brutal, and after everything, completely earned. But the second that happens, Hennessy decides it is time. Remember that locked door? It finally swings open, and what rolls out is a nightmare. A massive, heavily armed tanker truck she has named the Dreadnot, a rolling execution machine. It flattens two smaller drivers instantly, and because it belongs to the warden, it is allowed to drive through the buildings, which means it can appear anywhere, at any moment, with no warning. The Dreadnot is pure horror. It slowly kills 14K's navigator, chains his car, and pumps it full of fire until it explodes. And just like that, only Jensen and Joe are left. And there is no way on earth either of them beats this monster alone. So Jensen does the one thing you never expect. He has lists, patches radio into Joe's car, and the two bitter enemies join forces. They flank the Dreadnot from both sides, dancing around its fire, and when a trap manhole lights up between them, each car rolls two wheels over it, combining for the 4 it takes to trigger it. A massive barrier rockets up out of the ground, and the Dreadnot plows straight into it. The beast is dead. Stage 2 is over. Only 2 drivers remain, Jensen and Joe. But here is what neither of them knows. Hennessy has already decided that one of them is not leaving this prison alive. That night, Joe strolls over to Jensen's pit and drops a bombshell. His voice sounds an awful lot like the real Frankenstein's. He is onto something, but for now, he lets it slide. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Hennessy and Ulrich make a cold-blooded decision. Jensen has to die. After all, the mask fits anyone. So before the final race, Ulrich sneaks a bomb underneath Jensen's car, while Hennessy distracts the crowd with a grand speech about how racing is these men's true purpose. But she slips. She lets one line escape. That today, someone might finally earn their freedom with a 5th win. And in that instant, it all becomes horribly clear to Jensen. The races are always rigged so that nobody ever reaches 5. That is why, in all these years, not one prisoner has ever walked free. Which means he was never, ever meant to win this race either. And he was never going to be allowed back to his daughter. Coach overhears him piece it together. And back in the shop, he shows Jensen something hidden in the footage of Grimm's fiery death. And just like that, a plan is born. Jensen has lists sneak a small half-gallon reserve fuel tank into the car, then heads to Joe's pit for one last alliance. But as he suits up, Hennessy pays him a visit, and she hands him his release papers, only to twist the knife one more time. If he wins, she says, she wants him to stay and keep being Frankenstein forever, because the track is where a man like him truly belongs. She sneers that he is not father material anyway, that an ex-convict could never give his daughter a real life, and that walking away would actually be selfish. It is manipulation at its most vicious. Jensen does not say a word, but quietly, he slides those release papers into his pocket. And in the car, Case admits, Hennessy got to her too. She has been ordered to stop Jensen if he ever gets close to winning, but Jensen is not worried, because he has got a plan. And it is about to blow this entire prison wide open. The final race begins, and immediately, Ulrich rigs the manholes, so they only fire for Joe, leaving Jensen defenseless. Joe shreds his rear shield, until Jensen is forced to drop it, the old trick. But Joe just swerves around it, because he learned that move from the real Frankenstein. When Hennessy lights up a defensive manhole to keep the crowd entertained, Joe blows it apart with a rocket. Then he lets every rocket he has got fly straight at Jensen. But this is the moment the plan detonates. Jensen dodges every last rocket and lets them all slam into one specific wall. The exact wall behind Grimm the day he burned to death. Already cracked. Already weakened. Jensen and Joe have been calculating every move this entire time to hammer that one weak spot. And now the rockets deliver the final blow, blasting a massive hole clean through the prison wall. Their way out. Hennessy goes ballistic. She kills the stream, throws every cop she has after them, and jams her thumb down on the bomb detonator. And nothing happens. Because Coach and his crew already found that bomb, pulled it out, and shut it down. Jensen and Joe punch toward the bridge, but the cops are gaining fast. So Jensen plays the next card. He drops that half-gallon reserve tank right in their path, and it erupts into a towering wall of fire, wiping out the chase behind them. Both men blast through the bridge gates, then split onto two separate roads, so the helicopters all peel off after Jensen, the bigger prize. As Joe disappears, Case agrees to help with the final piece. She owes it to the real Frankenstein, and since Hennessy already handed her release papers, they will be forced to let her go. So as they pass a row of construction cranes, Jensen leaps out of the moving car and vanishes into the shadows, while Case slides over into the driver's seat. She drives a few more miles before the helicopters finally box her in with a wall of fire. But when she steps out, hands raised, she is wearing Frankenstein's mask and clothes. And since almost nobody alive knows about the swap, the cops arrest Frankenstein and haul her back to prison, never once suspecting that Jensen is already long gone. He links back up with Joe, and the two hop a freight train straight to freedom. And then comes the sweetest twist of all. Back in the office, Ulrich brags that the ratings are through the roof, and congratulatory gifts are already pouring in. Hennessy opens one of them and finds the very bomb Ulrich planted under Jensen's car, staring back at her. It goes off, killing them both instantly, and out on the empty track, we see Coach, calmly lowering the detonator in his hand. Justice. Delivered. 6 months later, Jensen and Joe have built a whole new life down in Santa Rosalia, Mexico. They run their own auto shop as mechanics. And best of all, Jensen has his daughter back in his arms, custody and all. The little girl he was framed, caged, and nearly killed for is finally home. And then Case shows up, her release finally cleared, rolling in with a brand new racing car for the boys to check out. A quiet, hopeful ending for the very men the system tried so hard to destroy. And that is the full story of Death Race. An innocent father, framed and broken, thrown into a game built to kill him, who outdrove, outsmarted, and outlasted every single person who ever tried to take him down. Now let me be real with you for a second. You just watched this whole thing to the very end. And if you still have not subscribed, come on. That one actually hurts a little. I put real hours into breaking these movies down for you, frame by frame, and all I am asking in return is one tiny click. So do the right thing before you go, and hit that subscribe button. Because if you do not, who is going to be here to break down the next crazy movie for you? And do me one more favor. Drop a comment down below, because I genuinely need to know. If you got thrown into the death race tomorrow, would you play by their rules and keep your head down? Or would you do exactly what Jensen did, and burn the whole rotten system to the ground? Tell me. I read every single one. I will see you in the next recap.